At brunch, my mom looked at me and said, "If it wasn't out of pity, no one would have invited you." I just sipped my coffee and smiled. That night, I logged in, shut down every family credit account, and emailed my lawyer about selling the cabin. A few days later, my brother kept calling nonstop. I didn't answer once. Imagine finally hearing the words that perfectly encapsulate decades of neglect, dismissal, and casual cruelty, not from an enemy, but from your own mother over brunch. "You know, Charmaine," she smirked, "you're lucky we even include you." Pity goes a long way. In that moment, something inside me didn't just break, it solidified, turning years of silent suffering into a chilling resolve that would dismantle their entire world. My name is Charmaine, and at 35, I'm still picking up the pieces from wounds my own family inflicted. I've built a successful life as a software developer, creating a safe distance from their toxicity. But, like so many of us, I kept that occasional contact, that thread of hope. Last Sunday, it led me right back to them, to an upscale brunch, ostensibly to catch up. And there it was, between the clink of mimosa glasses and the delicate avocado toast, my mother, Elaine, leaned in, that familiar smirk playing on her lips. And she said those words. I just sipped my coffee. And I smiled. That night, something shifted. I logged into my computer, every single family credit account. Disabled. Every one of them. And then I emailed my lawyer about selling the family cabin. This wasn't just about money, this was about reclaiming myself. See, growing up in Fairfield, Connecticut, on the outside, it looked like privilege. Our sprawling colonial home, the manicured lawn, the heated swimming pool, it was a fortress. But inside, that house, it was permeated by an emotional coldness that chilled you to the bone. It was a place of expectations I could never, ever quite meet. My childhood bedroom, painted pale blue because my mother insisted, even though I hated it, even though I wanted green, became my sanctuary. My prison, actually. From elementary school all the way through high school, I was the perfect child, straight A's, honor societies, debate team captain. But my achievements? They just collected dust. Meanwhile, my brother, Nathan, with his mediocre baseball and average grades, received lavish praise. At my high school graduation, where I stood there delivering the valedictorian speech, my father, Richard, was checking his BlackBerry. My mother later complained that my dress looked department store. Can you believe that? "We expect excellence from you, Charmaine," my father would say, almost dismissively, whenever I dared to show him a perfect report card or an academic award. "Nathan needs more encouragement. He's not naturally gifted like you." This wasn't a compliment, it was a backhanded dismissal, their constant justification for emotional neglect. Our family's money came from my father's company, Richard Wilson Enterprises, a commercial real estate empire he built from nothing back in the 80s. By the time I was 10, they owned shopping centers in 3 different states. My mother, a former beauty queen from Virginia, she dedicated herself to climbing social ladders. And I mean climbing. She served on charity boards, not because she cared, but for the connections, for the leverage. She hosted these elaborate dinner parties where I'd be trotted out for a brief moment, like some exotic pet, before being sent back upstairs. It was always about appearances. Take the family cabin in Vermont, for example. Nestled on Lake Champlain, 6 bedrooms, a private dock, it was the picture of wholesome togetherness, perfect for our Christmas cards, a legendary place of happiness in our family lore. But the reality? Weekends there meant my father glued to his laptop, working remotely. My mother on the phone, planning her next social coup. And Nathan, always plugged into video games. Me? I was usually alone reading on the dock. Just alone. I remember one Thanksgiving, I was just 12, and I overheard my mother on the phone, talking to her sister. She said, "Of course, Charmaine is smart, but she lacks social graces. Nathan, he has that natural charm people just gravitate toward." After that, I couldn't bring myself to enter a room without announcing myself first. It was like I needed permission to exist in their space. When I got a full scholarship to MIT for computer science, my parents, honestly, they seemed almost disappointed. My father actually said we could have paid, as if my achievements somehow diminished their importance. Meanwhile, Nathan, with his decidedly mediocre grades, went to Boston College and my parents paid for absolutely everything. Tuition, expenses, even an off-campus apartment. During college, something clicked for me. Alongside my programming skills, I developed a real knack for finance. I even created a stock prediction algorithm for a class project that got the attention of some serious investment firms. By graduation, I'd taken my scholarship living stipend and turned it into a modest investment portfolio just through careful market plays. Ironically, this very financial insight, this thing I was good at, led to my deep entanglement with the family money. After Nathan, in a single weekend, somehow managed to lose $40,000 trading penny stocks without doing any research whatsoever, my father asked me to keep an eye on things. That vague request snowballed. By my late 20s, I was the unofficial family financial advisor. I set up trusts, managed their investment accounts, optimized their tax strategies. I basically digitized their entire financial infrastructure. I automated their bill payments for properties, created secure access systems for all their accounts, and built these complex redundancies that, frankly, only I truly understood. All of this while I was building my own career at a financial software firm, where I eventually became a senior developer. My own apartment in Cambridge, it was deliberately modest, despite my growing personal wealth. A 2-bedroom condo, industrial-style furnishings, walls lined with books. That became my true home. It was where my real friends, people like Sophia and Jordan, who actually knew the real me, would gather for wine nights and honest conversations. In this chosen family, I found the genuine connections my biological family never, ever provided. And yet, I kept contact with my parents and my brother. Why? I guess it was some stubborn, foolish hope that eventually, they would see me. Really see me. Every birthday dinner, every holiday gathering, every family event, it just reopened wounds that never fully healed. I kept coming back. Managing their money, offering expertise they simultaneously relied on and completely dismissed. Charmaine has her little computer job. My mother would tell her friends at these charity galas where I'd occasionally make an appearance. We're so proud she found something that suits her analytical mind. She'd even pat my hand, delivering these diminishing comments, making any objection from me seem, oversensitive. My father? He maintained his emotional distance. Through an almost obsessive dedication to work. His rare direct communications were usually just texts asking for financial guidance or help with some tech issue. Nathan, bless his heart, he just followed the path cleared for him. He joined my father in business, despite, frankly, lacking any real aptitude for it. His position as Vice President of Development was a title only. Junior employees handled all his actual responsibilities. The irony of it all never escaped me. Despite being treated as utterly insignificant, I controlled the entire digital infrastructure of their financial lives. Every password, every account access point, every single automatic payment flowed through systems I created and I maintained. They required my expertise, all while pretending it was trivial. This contradiction, this gaping chasm, it created an unsustainable tension that had been building for years, bubbling beneath the surface, before that fateful brunch. The invitation, if you could even call it that, came through a text message. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and I was deep in debugging code at work. Family brunch Sunday at Maison Bleu, 11 a.m. Your presence expected. No, please, no ? Just a blunt command. My mother, she always communicated in imperatives when it came to family appearances. What she didn't know was what I had just uncovered. During a routine maintenance check on the family accounts, I'd noticed some seriously concerning transactions. Nathan had been withdrawing increasing amounts from his trust fund, nearly $80,000 gone in just 2 months. The transactions? All from ATMs near the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. I did some quiet digging, and sure enough, he'd opened secret credit cards with astronomical balances. His gambling addiction, that explained his recent jittery behavior, his constant requests for temporary loans from our parents. Of course, they were completely oblivious, blaming his need for cash on his recent divorce settlement with his ex-wife, Vanessa. This discovery, it put me in such an uncomfortable position. Revealing his addiction? That would cause absolute family chaos. But concealing it? That made me feel complicit. And then there was the cabin. My parents had decided to renovate the Vermont cabin without even consulting me, despite my part ownership, inherited directly from my grandmother. The renovation plans? They completely eliminated the library, the very space my grandmother had specifically designated for me in her will. These tensions, they were just simmering under the surface as I reluctantly agreed to that brunch. Saturday night before the meeting, I prepared myself meticulously. I really prepared. I picked out a charcoal gray sheath dress, conservative, but expensive enough to withstand my mother's inevitable scrutiny. I rehearsed neutral topics of conversation in my head. I set mental boundaries, strict ones, about what personal information I would actually share. Sunday morning dawned with this bright spring sunshine, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. I drove my modest Audi to Maison Bleu, an overpriced French bistro my mother had chosen, of course, for its visibility among her social circle. The restaurant was in prime real estate in Boston's Back Bay, with these expansive windows. Perfect for seeing and, more importantly, being seen. I arrived precisely on time, only to find my family already seated. My father, Richard, looked distinguished in his tailored navy suit, silver hair perfectly coiffed. My mother, Elaine, was in her signature pearls and an ivory linen dress, blonde highlights freshly done. Nathan, though dressed in expensive clothes, looked haggard. Shadows under his eyes, a slight tremor in his hands as he constantly checked his phone. "Charmaine, darling, 15 minutes early is on time," my mother said as I sat down. I was exactly on time. That passive-aggressive little jab? It just set the tone immediately. The waiter approached, all smiles. "Welcome to Maison Bleu. May I start you with beverages?" "Mimosas for the table," my father declared, without even asking. "Mimosas for the table. Charmaine will have coffee. Black. She avoids alcohol because of her migraines." That wasn't true. I avoided alcohol around them because I needed every single one of my faculties to navigate their dynamics. "Actually," I corrected quietly, "I'll have a sparkling water with lemon and coffee." My mother let out this dramatic sigh. Always the difficult one around us. I looked around the restaurant. Other families were actually engaged in genuine conversation. A father at the next table listened attentively to his teenage daughter. An elderly couple held hands across their table. These fleeting glimpses of authentic connection just painfully highlighted the performative, shallow nature of our own gathering. The waiter returned with our drinks, taking our breakfast orders. My mother, naturally, criticized my choice of avocado toast as predictable while praising Nathan for selecting steak and eggs, despite his utterly obvious hangover. "So, how's the programming job?" my father asked, barely glancing up from his watch. "Software development," I corrected gently. "My team just launched a new financial security platform. It's been acquired by 3 major banks." "How nice," my mother interrupted, not even missing a beat. "Nathan just closed the Westfield development deal. $40 million. Nathan visibly shifted, uncomfortable. I knew, from my access to the company accounts, that the Westfield deal had fallen through weeks ago. Another lie, meticulously maintained for appearances. "Congratulations," I offered neutrally, watching him studiously avoid eye contact. The conversation continued with my mother dominating, as always. Endless discussions about mutual friends, country club gossip, and, of course, those subtle digs at my perpetually single status. "Jennifer Wilson just got engaged," she said, "her 3rd marriage. And here you are, still waiting for your first. Though, with your particular personality, perhaps independence suits you better." It was just, constant. I noticed a young server, a woman, watching our table with concerned eyes. She'd probably witnessed similar family dynamics before, recognized the toxic undercurrents. When she refilled my water, she gave me this small, sympathetic smile. It was a lifeline. "We expect you at the cabin renovation reveal party next month," my mother announced suddenly, out of nowhere. "We've invited everyone who matters." My heart seized. "I wasn't aware renovations had been approved," I replied carefully. "As a partial owner, I really should have been consulted." My father waved dismissively. "Oh, that's just a legal technicality. Your grandmother was sentimental. The renovations are necessary for modernization." "The library," I pointed out, my voice tight. It was specifically designated for me in her will. "That musty room with all those books nobody reads," my mother scoffed. "It's becoming a media room. Nathan needs space for entertaining clients. Besides, you hardly visit anyway." My chest tightened, a familiar knot of anger and hurt. But I held on to my composure. "I visit monthly. To maintain the property. And the accounts." Speaking of accounts, Nathan interjected nervously, his voice thin. "I might need some adjustments to my access levels for business purposes." I knew exactly what he meant. He wanted higher withdrawal limits. To fund his gambling. Before I could respond, our food arrived, thankfully pausing the conversation. But I saw it. My mother exchanged this quick, knowing glance with my father. An unspoken communication, a silent conspiracy passing between them. "Charmaine," my mother began, once the server had departed, her voice taking on that sickeningly syrupy quality that always preceded her most cutting remarks. Your father and we've been discussing your role in family matters. My father cleared his throat. Your expertise has been valuable, he added, but Nathan is taking a more active interest in the financial aspects of the business. Translation? They wanted to reduce my visibility into the accounts, to hide Nathan's spiraling problems. I see, I replied, carefully cutting my avocado toast into precise, little triangles. That would require significant transitions. The systems are quite complex. You always complicate things, my mother snapped. Nathan has a financial advisor from Goldman Sachs now. A much more professional arrangement. I knew it was a lie. No professional, no legitimate advisor would ever approve Nathan's current financial behavior. The brunch just continued, tension mounting, building inexorably toward the moment that would finally break my long-suffering patience. The pivotal moment arrived as our plates were cleared. There was a family with young children seated nearby, their genuine affection for each other so painfully apparent. The father was helping his daughter cut her pancakes, while the mother listened intently to their son's animated story. My mother noticed me watching them. Some people are naturally suited for family life, she remarked pointedly. It requires a certain warmth and flexibility. I just sipped my now lukewarm coffee. Said nothing. We're meeting with the interior designer for the cabin renovations on Tuesday, my father announced, checking emails on his phone as usual. The contractor estimates completion by July. I would prefer if my designated space remained intact, I said quietly but firmly. Grandmother Elise specifically wanted me to have that library. Nathan snorted. You and those books. We need space people will actually use. I use it, I countered. I work remotely from there when I'm maintaining the family accounts. About those accounts, my mother interjected, cutting me off. We feel it would be best if you transferred everything to Nathan's new financial team. It's inappropriate for you to have such access to family matters when you're so removed from our daily lives. The insinuation was crystal clear. After years of managing their finances without a dime of compensation or a word of appreciation, I was being pushed aside. Why? Because I might discover Nathan's gambling problem. Or object to their renovation plans. Is my involvement in family finances causing problems? I asked directly, my voice even. My father finally looked up from his phone. We simply think clearer boundaries would benefit everyone. Your technical skills were useful during the digital transition. But professional management makes more sense now. Professional management, I repeated, through Nathan's supposed connection. My brother shifted uncomfortably. My guy is top tier. Harvard Business School. Another blatant lie. I maintained my composure, but inside, my thoughts were racing. They wanted to remove my access because I knew too much, not because they had better options. Well, I said carefully, transferring the systems would require significant documentation. The security protocols are quite intricate. You always make everything so complicated, my mother sighed dramatically. This is exactly why family gatherings are so tense. Your constant need to assert control. I don't need to assert control, I replied. I designed the systems you all rely on. Transitioning requires proper procedures. My mother slowly placed her napkin on the table. And then, she delivered the line that would change absolutely everything. Leaning forward, that familiar smirk playing on her lips, she said, You know, Charmaine, you are lucky we even include you in family matters at all. Pity goes a long way. Most people would have given up trying to integrate someone so difficult. The restaurant seemed to fall silent around us. Objectively, I know the ambient noise continued, but for me, it was deafening. My father kept scrolling on his phone, tacitly approving her statement through his silence. Nathan gave an uncomfortable laugh, glancing around as if concerned someone might have overheard. In that single, agonizing moment, memories cascaded through my mind. My 8th birthday, when they forgot to invite my friends. High school graduation, when my achievements were minimized. College move-in day, when they dropped me off early to attend Nathan's baseball game. Year after year of subtle and overt messages that I was an obligation, a burden, not a beloved family member. Externally, I remained calm. I slowly placed my coffee cup on its saucer, feeling the cool ceramic against my fingertips. I straightened my napkin precisely on my lap. When I finally looked up, I smiled. Thank you for your honesty, Mother, I said, my voice steady, despite the earthquake happening within me. She seemed momentarily disoriented by my calm response. She had expected tears, or anger, or defensive arguments. My composed acknowledgement left her without a follow-up script. Well, she finally stammered, I'm simply being truthful. Family harmony requires accepting one's place. Indeed, it does, I agreed, maintaining eye contact until she looked away first. The rest of brunch? It was a blur of tense small talk. My father, spouting off about stock market trends, completely oblivious to the irony that his knowledge came from reports I had prepared. Nathan, checking his phone repeatedly, probably monitoring sports betting odds. My mother, of course, commenting on everyone else's attire, finding flaws in absolutely everyone. I just observed them, as if from a great distance. The subtle family dynamics, they were so painfully clear now. My father, using work as a shield to avoid any emotional engagement. My mother, weaponizing social expectations to maintain control. Nathan, coddled and enabled until he was nothing but entitled and irresponsible. And me, the competent one, simultaneously relied upon and utterly diminished. That little couple at the next table, they paid their bill and left. The husband, helping his wife with her coat, a genuine gesture of care. The contrast with my own family? It was stark. It was painful. What would it even feel like, I wondered, to be valued simply for existing, not for what services I could provide? When the check finally arrived, my father handed over his platinum card without even glancing at the total. That card, naturally, was connected to accounts I had established and maintained. The irony, it was not lost on me. "We expect you Tuesday for the design meeting," my mother stated, as we prepared to leave. Not a request, but a command. "I'll check my schedule," I replied, noncommittally. "Your work can surely spare you for family priorities," she pressed, a familiar edge to her voice. I smiled again, and in that moment, the decision crystallized within me. Family priorities? I said, yes, those are very important to consider. We exited the restaurant together, maintaining this facade of a unified family. My father immediately took a business call. My mother gave me an air kiss on the cheek without making actual contact. Nathan, predictably, asked if he could borrow $5,000 until Friday, just confirming my suspicions about his gambling debts. "I'll see what I can do," I replied, already knowing exactly what my answer would be. As I walked to my car alone, the spring sunshine felt different somehow. The crushing weight I'd carried for decades, it was still there, pressing down unbearably. But beneath it, a tiny seed of resolve had taken root. My mother's cruel words, they still echoed, but now they felt like permission, not punishment. If pity was the only reason for my inclusion, then perhaps it was time to remove myself from the equation entirely. And in doing so, I would finally establish the boundaries I had failed to create for 35 years. The 20-minute drive from Maison to my Cambridge apartment passed in a blur. Once inside my true home, I methodically hung up my coat, placed my keys in their designated bowl, and walked straight to my home office. Only then, surrounded by my books and my own hard-won achievements, did I finally allow the emotional dam to break. Tears came, silently at first, then in heaving sobs that bent me forward in my ergonomic desk chair. "You are lucky we even include you." The words replayed in an endless loop. 35 years of seeking approval from people constitutionally incapable of giving it. Decades of managing their financial affairs while being treated as an inconvenient obligation. After about 15 minutes of this raw, emotional release, I straightened up, wiped my face, and opened my laptop. Grief would have its time, but first I needed information. And a plan. I logged into the family financial dashboard I had created. The interface displayed their entire interconnected empire: accounts, properties, investments, credit lines. The Wilson family financial empire in digital form. All accessible through authentication protocols I had designed. My father, in his infinite wisdom, had insisted on convenience over complexity, resulting in a system where one administrator could control everything through master access. That administrator? It was me. I began systematically documenting everything. Account numbers, access credentials, transaction histories, property deeds, investment portfolios, credit lines, insurance policies, trust fund structures, tax filings. I created secure offline backups of all the data, knowing that evidence might be necessary later. The picture that emerged confirmed what I already knew, but had forced myself to ignore. Nathan had withdrawn over $200,000 in the past year from various accounts, most of it in cash transactions near casinos. My parents? They'd spent nearly $1 million on luxury expenses, all while complaining about the modest charitable donations I'd automated from their accounts. And the Vermont cabin renovations? They'd been contracted for $800,000 without proper permits or even a notification to me, the partial owner. The library, The one my grandmother had legally designated for me was scheduled for demolition next week. I opened a secure document and began outlining my options. As I cataloged the financial systems I controlled, the legal rights I possessed, and the leverage available to me, a plan formed with crystalline clarity. For once, the very qualities my family dismissed as difficult, my attention to detail, my technical knowledge, my methodical approach to problem solving, would serve me well. First, I needed legal counsel. I contacted Jordan, my closest friend, who happened to be a corporate attorney. I need a referral for someone specializing in family financial disputes and property rights, I explained, after briefly summarizing the situation. Vanessa Hargrove, Jordan replied without hesitation. She handled my sister's complex divorce. Brilliant, ethical, and absolutely fearless. He promised to text me her contact information. Next, I made a comprehensive list of all family accounts requiring immediate attention. 1. The 4 primary credit cards used by my parents. 2. The 3 credit cards used exclusively by Nathan. 3. The 2 joint checking accounts. 4. The main family investment portfolio. 5. Property management accounts for 5 different properties, including that damn Vermont cabin. 6. All the automatic bill payment systems for those properties. 7. Their tax preparation access accounts. 8. The trust fund management interfaces. For each, I noted my legal relationship, my access level, and potential actions. As the designated administrator, I had the right to suspend access pending security reviews. A provision my father had approved without reading the fine print years ago. I reviewed my grandmother Elisa's will regarding the Vermont property. The document clearly stated, the library at the Lake Champlain property is bequeathed specifically to my granddaughter Charmaine Wilson for her lifetime use, to remain intact as a place of learning and reflection. The planned renovation directly violated this legally binding provision. By 9 p.m., my emotions had stabilized, and my plan had solidified. I would not act from anger, though anger was absolutely justified. I would not seek revenge, though the opportunity presented itself with glittering allure. Instead, I would simply stop protecting them from the consequences of their actions, while asserting my own legal rights. I prepared a simple meal of pasta and salad, eating mechanically while reviewing potential outcomes. My family would be angry, I knew that. They would threaten, they would cajole. They might even temporarily seem remorseful. But decades of patterns predicted they would never genuinely acknowledge their behavior, or truly change. After dinner, I called Vanessa Hargrove's office and left a detailed message. Then I wrote emails to my supervisor, requesting 2 personal days, and to my therapist, asking for an emergency session. Self-care, I knew, would be absolutely essential during this transition. At precisely 11 p.m., I began executing the first phase of my plan. I logged into the master financial dashboard with my administrator credentials. First, I disabled automatic payments on all family credit cards. I left them active, but I removed the safety net that prevented late fees. Then, I changed the security protocols on the investment accounts to require dual authentication, effectively freezing access until new protocols were established. For the family checking accounts, I left them operational, but I removed the overdraft protection I had established. Nathan's secret credit cards, obtained through his connection to family accounts, they would be the first to feel the effect when his automatic payments failed. Finally, I composed an email to the family attorney regarding the Vermont cabin renovation. Dear Mr. Steinberg, I am writing regarding the planned renovation of the family property at Lake Champlain, Vermont. As you are aware, I am a partial owner of this property with specific provisions regarding the library as established in Elise Wilson's will, attached. I have not approved the current renovation plans, which include demolition of this space. Please advise the contractors that work must cease immediately pending legal review. I have copied the relevant county permitting office to ensure compliance. I have retained separate counsel in this matter. Please direct future communications to Vanessa Hargrove at Hamilton Legal Partners. Regards, Charmaine Wilson. I sent the email, with all the supporting documentation attached, copying the contractors, the permitting office, and Vanessa Hargrove's office. As midnight approached, I completed the final step. I composed a brief, factual email to my parents and brother. I am stepping back from management of family financial affairs effective immediately. Security protocols have been updated to protect accounts during this transition. I have also addressed the legal issues regarding the Vermont property renovation through appropriate channels. I will be unavailable for direct communication for the foreseeable future as I reassess my relationship with this family. Charmaine. I clicked send. Then, systematically, I logged out of all accounts. I turned off my phone, knowing the notifications would begin soon. For the first time in years, I felt the monumental weight of family obligation lift from my shoulders. In its place was not vindication or triumph, but something quieter and more profound. The beginning of freedom. The next morning, I woke up even before my alarm, feeling this strange lightness, despite the massive confrontation I knew was looming. I went through my usual routine with deliberate mindfulness, treating each action as a small act of self-care. Brewing coffee, stretching, 5 minutes of quiet meditation, simple acts that grounded me in my own life, not in their drama. At exactly 8 a.m., I powered on my phone. 17 missed calls. 23 text messages. 9 voicemails. I ignored every single one. Instead, I called Vanessa Hargrove's office. Her assistant had already scheduled an emergency consultation for 9:30. I'll need all documentation regarding property ownership, financial systems, access agreements, and any written communications about the renovation, the assistant advised. Already compiled, I assured her, having spent the early morning hours organizing all those digital files. Before leaving for the appointment, I took additional security measures. I changed all my personal passwords, removed family members from my emergency contacts, activated enhanced security on all my personal accounts. I even withdrew $4,000 in cash from my personal savings, just knowing that financial warfare might escalate quickly. Vanessa Hargrove's office was on the 14th floor of a sleek downtown building. The attorney herself projected this composed confidence. Her gray suit was impeccably tailored, her handshake firm. "Jordan speaks highly of you," she said, gesturing me to a seat. "He mentioned this involves complex family financial entanglements and property disputes." For the next hour, I outlined the entire situation with clinical precision, providing documentation for every single claim. Vanessa asked incisive questions, taking meticulous notes. "Based on these documents," she concluded, "your position is legally sound. The cabin library provision is explicitly protected in the will. Your administrator access to financial systems was formally granted by your father." She paused. "The question now is what outcome you desire." "I want 3 things," I replied. First, protection of my legal rights regarding the Vermont property. Second, complete separation from family financial management without becoming their scapegoat. And third, immunity from any potential accusations of financial impropriety, because I fully expect them to blame me for Nathan's gambling losses once they become apparent. Vanessa nodded. "Reasonable objectives," she said. "I recommend immediate legal notices regarding the property renovation, formal documentation of your resignation as financial administrator with a comprehensive accounting of the current state of affairs, and preemptive documentation regarding Nathan's unauthorized withdrawals to protect you from false accusations." "How quickly can we proceed?" I asked. "I'll have preliminary documents ready this afternoon," she assured me. "The property injunction takes priority since construction is imminent." After leaving Vanessa's office, I went straight to my bank. I opened a new account at a different institution than my family used and transferred the majority of my personal funds, leaving only minimal balances in accounts that could potentially be linked to family finances. By noon, my phone had accumulated another 30 missed calls. I finally listened to one voicemail. It was from my father. "What the hell do you think you are doing? Fix this immediately. Your behavior is unacceptable." His voice held that familiar tone of someone who expected immediate, unquestioning compliance. But for the very first time, I felt utterly immune to its effect. At 1 p.m., I met with my therapist, Dr. Caroline Reed, who had kindly accommodated my emergency request. "This represents a significant boundary establishment," she observed after I recounted the recent events. "How are you managing the emotional aftermath?" "Vacillating between relief and guilt," I admitted. "Intellectually, I know this is necessary self-protection. But emotionally, decades of conditioning are hard to overcome. The guilt," Dr. Reed reminded me gently, "is a programmed response. Your family installed those buttons precisely to prevent this kind of self-advocacy." I spent the entire afternoon working with Vanessa's team, signing affidavits, reviewing legal notices. By 5 p.m., we had taken significant action. First, an emergency injunction was filed against the Vermont cabin renovations based on those clear will provisions. Second, my formal resignation as family financial administrator with complete, meticulous documentation of all account statuses. Third, certified letters were prepared for all financial institutions, documenting the change in authority. Fourth, evidence of Nathan's gambling withdrawals was placed in a secure legal hold. And fifth, I'd contracted a security company to change the locks on my apartment and install enhanced surveillance. What should I expect next? I asked Vanessa as we concluded our session. Escalation, then. Negotiation, she replied, her voice calm and matter-of-fact. They will first attempt to intimidate you into reversing course. When that fails, they will offer concessions to regain control. And throughout, they will likely attempt to access accounts and bypass the security measures you implemented. Her prediction? It proved absolutely accurate. By that evening, my brother had progressed from angry texts to thinly veiled threats. You have no idea what you are doing to this family. Dad is considering legal action. Fix this now before you cannot undo the damage. I didn't respond. Instead, I focused on my own security. I contacted my workplace security team, advising them not to allow family members access to the building. I informed my apartment building management about potential unwanted visitors. I even called the local police on their non-emergency line to document the situation, just in case of escalation. That night, I performed a small ritual of reclamation. I deleted the family calendar from my phone, finally removing all those birthdays and anniversaries that had dictated my schedule for years. I unsubscribed from my mother's country club newsletter. I removed the family photos from my living room, replacing them with art I had always wanted to display, but had kept hidden away to avoid their inevitable criticism. Each small act, it reinforced my resolve. This wasn't merely financial disentanglement, this was emotional emancipation. The systems of obligation and diminishment that had defined my family relationships, they were being dismantled, methodically, just as I had once built their financial infrastructure. The next morning brought the first serious consequence. Nathan called from a new number I hadn't yet blocked. The credit card company declined my payment, he said, without any preamble, as soon as I answered. I need $30,000 by tomorrow, or there will be serious problems. What kind of problems? I asked calmly. Casino markers, he admitted after a long pause. Look, I know you're upset about what Mom said, but this is serious. These are not people you mess with. Your gambling debts are not my responsibility, I replied. But you're the one who disabled the payment systems, he shouted, his voice cracking with desperation. You did this on purpose. I resigned as administrator after being told my involvement was no longer wanted. I responded evenly. The transition has consequences. Dad is furious. He can't access the investment accounts. Mr. Phillips at First National Bank can help him establish new security protocols, I stated. I provided complete documentation in my resignation letter. This is not a game, Charmaine, Nathan warned. You are destroying the family. The family was destroying me, I replied. And then I ended the call. Within the hour, my father attempted similar tactics through his attorney, who called Vanessa directly. She later reported that they demanded immediate restoration of all access in exchange for discussing my concerns about the cabin renovation. I advised them that access protocols were changed as part of your formal resignation from financial management duties, with complete documentation provided for continuity, Vanessa explained. Regarding the cabin, I informed them that construction must cease immediately, pursuant to the injunction, which has already been served to the contractors. By the third day, the initial shock tactics gave way to the predicted negotiation phase. My mother sent an email, which contained a very uncharacteristic apology. Perhaps my words at brunch were hasty. Family disagreements are normal, but should be resolved within the family. Please call so we can discuss restoring the accounts and moving forward together. I forwarded it to Dr. Reed, who responded, classic minimization and attempt to re-establish control. Notice how the apology is vague, includes no specific acknowledgement of harm, and immediately pivots to demands. I didn't respond to my mother's message or to any subsequent attempts at contact from any family member. Instead, I focused intently on rebuilding my life, without the constant drain of their needs and expectations. Each day, without managing their finances or absorbing their endless criticism, felt like recovering from a long illness. Strength slowly, gradually, but steadily returning. The first month after what I now simply called the brunch incident passed in a blur of legal proceedings, financial disentanglements, and deeply personal recalibration. My family, predictably, cycled through their stages: anger, then threats, then bargaining, and finally, strategic attempts at reconciliation. Nathan, he was hit the hardest by the immediate consequences. Without access to family funds, his gambling debts came due, with absolutely no safety net. According to mutual acquaintances, he was forced to sell his luxury condo and move into a modest apartment. His Mercedes was repossessed after 3 missed payments. The casino markers? They required intervention from my father, who reportedly paid over $100,000 to prevent more serious consequences. My parents faced their own harsh adjustments. The credit card suspensions resulted in embarrassing, declined transactions at social events. My father had to personally contact financial institutions to establish new access protocols, a task he had always delegated to someone else. My mother found herself without automated payments for her country club membership, resulting in a late fee and a temporary suspension of privileges. Oh, the humanity. Through all of this, I maintained strict communication boundaries. Every single contact went through Vanessa, who provided me with weekly summaries rather than forwarding every single, often infuriating, message. I changed my personal email and phone number, sharing the new contact information only with my most trusted friends and colleagues. My professional life? It just flourished in the absence of family demands. Freed from constant interruptions for tech support and financial management, I completed a major project ahead of schedule, earning significant recognition from senior management. I accepted a speaking opportunity at a financial technology conference, something I had previously declined countless times due to those family obligations that inevitably arose whenever I had important commitments. Sophia and Jordan formed a protective circle around me, vetting invitations and providing sanctuary when old memories became overwhelming. Other friends I had neglected, while prioritizing my family's endless needs, reconnected, surprised and pleased by my newfound availability. "You seem different, my friend," Alexis commented during a dinner 6 weeks after the brunch. "More present somehow." "I'm learning to exist without constant vigilance," I explained. "Without anticipating criticism or demands." Around the 2-month mark, my brother escalated his attempts to reach me. He actually appeared at my workplace, but security, thankfully, had been briefed and denied him entry. He started leaving handwritten notes at my old apartment, which the property manager forwarded to me. The messages grew increasingly desperate as his financial situation deteriorated. "Please help me. I know I have a problem. I need your expertise to fix this mess," one note read. For the very first time, he acknowledged his gambling addiction, though I knew it was primarily leveraged to regain my assistance. My parents adopted different strategies. My father attempted to use business connections to pressure me, having colleagues casually mention family concerns during professional interactions. My mother, of course, spread strategic misinformation among her social circle, portraying herself as the worried parent of a daughter having a breakdown. "We're giving her space during this difficult time," she'd tell mutual acquaintances, artfully recasting my boundary enforcement as mental instability. 3 months after the brunch, I received an unexpected communication. The Vermont town clerk contacted me directly about the cabin property. "We've received inquiries about selling the property," she explained. "As a co-registered owner, your signature would be required. I just wanted to confirm you were aware of these discussions." This was the first I had heard of them trying to sell the cabin. Apparently, facing renovation complications and unable to use the property as planned, my parents were attempting to liquidate the asset without involving me directly. Vanessa immediately filed additional legal notices, protecting my ownership interest. "They cannot sell without your consent," she assured me. This appears to be a pressure tactic. Indeed, the following day brought the first direct communication from my father in months. "The cabin situation has become untenable due to your obstruction. We have interested buyers prepared to offer $7 million. Your share would be substantial. Contact me to discuss terms if you want to be included in this opportunity." The implicit threat was clear: cooperate or be excluded, somehow. Vanessa advised that no legal mechanism existed for them to sell without my consent, making this an empty threat, designed solely to prompt engagement on their terms. I did not respond. For months after the brunch confrontation, financial reality forced even more significant changes in my family's circumstances. Nathan, now reportedly attending Gamblers Anonymous, according to mutual friends, took a legitimate job at an insurance company, far below his previous, ersatz, executive position. My father, facing investment losses without my management, downsized his company operations and sold one of their vacation properties in Florida. My mother resigned from 2 charity boards, citing family priorities, but in reality, She was unable to maintain the expected donation levels. Throughout this period, I continued my own healing journey. Weekly therapy sessions helped me recognize and counter the ingrained beliefs about my worth and my role. I established a regular meditation practice. I even took a pottery class I had always been interested in but had dismissed as impractical. And for the first time in years, I dated casually. No longer worried about family interrogations about potential partners. 5 months into this new reality, my mother tried a different approach. She appeared, unannounced, at a charity event I was attending. She knew I wouldn't create a scene in public, of course. "You look thin," she observed, the familiar criticism wrapped thinly as concern. "Are you eating properly?" "I am well, thank you," I replied neutrally. "I need to return to my table." "This separation has gone on long enough," she continued, as if I hadn't spoken a word. "Your father and I are prepared to forget recent unpleasantness. Nathan is doing better. The family needs to reunite." "I am not available for that discussion," I stated calmly. "We are still your family," she insisted, a familiar, wounded edge entering her voice. "You cannot simply erase 35 years of history." "I am not erasing history," I replied. "I am honoring it by finally responding appropriately to it." I walked away before she could respond, rejoining my friends at our table. Later, I learned she had left the event immediately after our encounter. The 6th month brought an unexpected, truly unexpected, development. Nathan contacted Vanessa directly, requesting a mediated meeting, without our parents involved. After consultation with Dr. Reed, I cautiously agreed to a short meeting at Vanessa's office, with very specific parameters established in advance. Nathan arrived looking substantially different from the polished executive image he'd previously maintained. His designer clothes were replaced by department store business casual. The expensive watch was gone. Most notably, the entitled confidence had vanished from his demeanor. "Thank you for seeing me," he began, once we were seated in Vanessa's conference room. "I know you have no reason to trust anything I say. Why did you request this meeting?" I asked directly. He placed a 6-month sobriety chip on the table. "Gamblers Anonymous," he said. "Not my first attempt at the program, but the first one that's sticking." "Congratulations," I said, and I meant it. "Hitting bottom was necessary," he continued. "When you stopped enabling the family, everything collapsed quickly. Dad had to face that his company was overleveraged. Mom had to confront that her social standing was built on financial quicksand. And I had to admit I was an addict, not just having bad luck." "Why tell me this?" I asked him. "Because you were right," he said simply, "about everything. And none of us would have changed without what you did." He looked at me, truly looked at me. "I'm not asking for money or help or even forgiveness. I just thought you deserved to know that your actions force growth. At least for me." We spoke for about 30 minutes. He detailed his recovery program, his new modest job with its regular hours and accountability, his studio apartment where he was living within his actual means for the first time. He didn't ask about my life or attempt to extract promises for future contact. As the meeting concluded, he said something that genuinely pierced the careful emotional walls I had constructed. "I always knew you were the strongest one of us. I just never understood that your kind of strength was the one that mattered." I didn't commit to future contact, but I agreed to consider it if his recovery remained consistent. It was the first family interaction in 6 months that didn't leave me feeling diminished or drained. Our parents, however, they maintained their position. When they learned of my meeting with Nathan, they immediately attempted to leverage it as an opening for their own demands. My father sent a formal letter outlining a family reunification plan that primarily involved me resuming management of accounts and withdrawing legal objections to their property decisions. My mother left a voicemail presenting a distorted version of events.